Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, a tough autumn ahead for arable farmers.
I've heard good, capable, forward-thinking farmers with forward-thinking businesses, profitable businesses, turn around to me and say, I'm working out my exit strategy.
We reflect on a year of difficult weather, sliding grain prices, low confidence, and no sign of rescue for the UK's bioethanol green fuel industry. Let's start, though, with our focus for the week, salad. It's been a hot summer, so presumably it's not just me who's been existing on salad. This week we'll be looking at all things leaves, tomatoes and cooling healthy things, from new fertilisers and peat substitutes to hydroponics. Jim Monaghan is Professor of Crop Science at Harper Adams University. He told me that variety is a key part of what UK growers are offering.
The range now is amazing. A lettuce business might be growing 10 different sorts of lettuce. Tomatoes, there could be 20 sorts of tomato in a tomato nursery.
How important is UK grown salad versus what we import?
At this time of year, if you go and look on a supermarket shelf, it would be unusual to see overseas grown leafy salads. The tomato growers have been doing a great job this year. I don't know if you've seen the big kilo boxes of tomatoes that they've been selling of mixed tomatoes. So British tomato growers have been really going for it. If we then look at that across in terms of proportions, because we look over a 12-month period, half the lettuce probably is imported because that comes in the winter season, and close to probably 70% of tomatoes will be imported. It's important for the growers now. This is their main season and they'll sell pretty much everything they can grow. But for tomatoes, that's not enough to fill the shelves for the whole of the summer. For lettuces and salads, it is.
Is there a sense that British growers could provide more for longer periods of the year? Or are they outcompeted partly because of the weather?
Well, I think with leafy salads, they could do a little bit more, but since they're matching the market pretty much at the moment, and then to extend it into those cold months would be difficult because of frosts. But if we looked at protected crops like salad tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and the like, then actually they could do more. The challenge for those growers is long-term investment from agricultural funds, so banks and the like. And a key thing would be actually coming to an understanding about how they can pay for those energy costs, because it's the energy costs which are pooled somewhere like the Netherlands, which allows them to really produce large volumes of export crop.
So when you say it's pooled, what does that mean in practical terms?
So you might find what they call a combined heat and power unit would be built, and then you would cluster multiple businesses around it. So there'd be a central energy source, if you want, and then businesses would be able to come around that. And then that's much more efficient than having to build an individual energy source, if you want, for your own glasshouse.
Now, I'm imagining that the hot weather we've been having recently is really good news for salad growers because of the demand. What does it actually mean for the growing of salad?
I'd say take a step back and remember this time last year, and we just finished a very wet period. And the growers had a really difficult time. Then come forward to this year and they've had a really prolonged period of no rain. So resilience, I think, is the key thing, that how salad growers are having to be resilient. And this year, that means accessing water. And so the big challenge at the moment is making sure you've got water. Because if you look at a lettuce, it's 95% water. So if you haven't got water to apply to the crops when they need it, then you're going to have reduced yields.
Professor Jim Monaghan. Now, we freeze food to keep it fresh. Is there then an advantage to trees being frozen before planting? Well, this is an idea that Forestry Land and Scotland, that's what was once the Forestry Commission north of the border, is trying out to help press ahead with green targets and make life better for the people planting millions of trees across the country. Richard Baines has been finding out more.
So it's a spade into the ground, foot on it.
It's the middle of summer and I'm with forester Rod Watt near Loch Gilphead in Argyll, planting trees.
Push the spade forward, back again, open up the hole, drop the tree in, pull it back up and then firm it up your foot.
This is way outside the normal tree planting season of October to April, but it's possible because these trees have been in the deep freeze.
When I was a tree planter in Canada, we were planting trees from April into July, sometimes August.
The idea was the brainwave of Forester Paige Klinkman. She's originally from Canada, where the ground is snow-covered for much of the year, making winter planting impossible.
Our trees came to site very different to what I've experienced since working in the industry in Scotland. They would come in big, refrigerated Artec lorries. The trees inside themselves would be frozen.
The Canadian trees are frozen to ensure that they're still dormant. That is, in their winter state and not trying to grow. Dormancy is essential for the best results when tree planting. Paige suggested trying the same thing here.
The general consensus is if it's known and it works in Canada, why could it not work here? A tree in dormancy is a tree in dormancy, no matter what continent you find it on.
Her colleagues were keen not to replace the normal winter planting, but to extend the planting season.
Temperature in here is -2, -3.
The process starts in Newton in Murray, with forester Alan Duncan and his team in a giant freezer.
All the trees need to be parked with the tops of the trees in one direction. You can't store the trees bare rooted in there.
The trees are then delivered to colleagues such as Rod Watt.
We've turned off the cold stove for the last couple of days, so it's a gradual thawing process. These ones are red cedar, probably 15 in this bundle, I think.
The root ball still feels quite cold.
Cold, but it's thawed out, it's soft.
The extended season should help Forestry and Land Scotland meet its target to plant millions more trees and also help with staffing.
Traditionally, we have always had a little bit of a problem with our planting resource because we only plant normally between the beginning of November and roughly the end of April. So outside those times, the guys who are planting have to go and find other jobs to do. The more continuity we can give them, the better in terms of maintaining a skilled resource. Also, they've got longer days, they've got generally a little bit drier, better temperatures to work in.
Later planting can mean less damage by deer to the young trees, as by June there's plenty of other grazing. It also avoids the hatching season for the damaging greater pine weevil, so it should be a win-win for the foresters.
Richard Baines reporting there. 2025 will live long in farmers' memories, and not in a good way. As we've reported on Farming Today, a record-breaking wet winter, followed by a record-breaking dry spring, has meant reduced yields of cereal crops. But a smaller supply of UK grain hasn't led to higher prices, anything but. Grain markets are on a downward slide, and the government's decision last week not to offer a rescue package to two plants producing bioethanol for greener petrol is a cause for further worry. The plants have been rendered economically unviable by the US trade deal, which removed tariffs from bioethanol imports. Jamie Burrows farms in Hertfordshire and Norfolk. He's also chair of the National Farmers Union's Combinable Crops Board. He reflected on the economics of the harvest, the third difficult year in a row.
Wheat is probably down 40, £50 a tonne from this time last year. Barley would be about the same. So we're a long way down, and the real problem is, it is just a global commodity, and just because we've had a poor harvest here doesn't mean that it will reflect the price that we get paid for it. We're producing a global commodity, and actually the value of the US dollar is far more relevant to the price we get paid for our grain than our weather conditions.
Many people will be really surprised that actually currency movements are more impactful here than the weather and the yield in a British field.
If the dollar is down, then that's cheap to buy and export around the world. So that has a knock-on effect on the grain movements around the world, and it makes ours expensive, effectively.
What impact will the closure of bioethanol plants in the UK make? The government decided last week not to intervene. It says that wouldn't provide value for money for the taxpayer.
It absolutely baffles me, Charlotte. There's so many positives to that industry. I just cannot see the logic behind it. But our figures at the moment show that pretty much Midlands upwards, we're seeing a price increase of £10 to £15 a tonne for farmers growing wheat in that area going into Vivergo.
So logically then, once the bioethanol plant closes, you also lose that premium.
Yeah, absolutely. So farmers in the north, and as I say, down to the North Midlands, that the price they get now will drop from where it is.
Is there anything farmers can do now, both with that, the yield, the quality, all the things that we've just talked about, to play the market and hope to get a better price?
You're very limited in what you can do. I mean, some of us look to selling grain for next harvest on the futures market. If I'd have sold 2/3 of my crop at what were quite good prices being offered this time last year, I would be concerned whether I'd have enough in the shed to cover those commitments. And that's the problem with the weather being so unpredictable now. You can't really sell too much ahead because you don't know what you're going to have.
What could the longer term impact of this be now?
You've talked to enough farmers over the years. Their first reaction is, well, we'll just get this year out of the way and we'll have another go. And I'm not hearing that. Last couple of weeks, I've not heard that. I've heard good, capable, forward-thinking farmers with forward-thinking businesses, profitable businesses, turn around to me and say, I'm working out my exit strategy.
Really?
Yeah. You know, when you look at the backdrop of, I'm sure we don't want to get into it now, but, you know, with the backdrop of IHT and everything else, you do think, what else can we have thrown at us? As an arable farmer at the moment, trying to work out what the future will hold, it's a very difficult one to understand where we go from here.
Jamie Burrows. That's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer's Sarah Swadling, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.